You know, in the brutal, chaotic skies of World War I, one name just soared above all the others. A flash of crimson, a symbol of terror and skill, the Red Baron. That's the legend, but tonight we're going to peel back the layers of that myth and find the man underneath. 80. Let's just start with that number because it's everything. 80 confirmed combat victories. That tally was and still is the highest of the entire war. I mean, think about that. In an era where a pilot's life expectancy was measured in weeks, that number is just staggering. And this quote, it just perfectly captures the image, doesn't it? This idea of a crimson demon in the sky, an almost untouchable knight of the air. This is the myth that struck absolute fear into the hearts of Allied pilots and, at the same time, gave a whole nation a hero to believe in.
Right. And that's the real question, isn't it? That's what we're here to figure out. If you look past the bright red paint and that incredible kill count, who was Manfred von Richthofen, really? How did this guy become the war's most celebrated and most feared pilot?
Well, his journey didn't begin in the clouds like you might think. Nope. It started firmly on the ground in a very traditional military role that, frankly, was becoming totally obsolete. You see, Richthofen was born into Prussia's Junker class. We're talking landed aristocracy, a world built on discipline, duty, and military service. His life was pretty much mapped out from day one. He became an expert hunter, a fantastic horseman, honing all these reflexes that would become absolutely crucial later on. But here's the kicker. He wasn't some natural-born pilot. Not at all. When trenched warfare made his cavalry unit pretty much useless, he transferred to the air service, mainly because he was bored. He started as an observer, and his pilot training, it was a clumsy mess. He actually crashed on his very first solo flight. This early struggle just makes his later mastery even more unbelievable. So, how does a pilot who crashes on his first solo flight become a legendary ace? Well, the answer comes down to two things: an incredible mentor and a completely new way of thinking about aerial combat. This is the moment he stops being just a pilot and starts becoming a true hunter. The big turning point for him was his mentor, Oswald Boelcke, who was Germany's top ace at the time. Boelcke actually wrote down his rules for air combat. It was called the Dicta Boelcke, and it was basically the first ever tactical playbook for fighter pilots. This wasn't about flashy Hollywood-style dogfights. It was a cold, calculated doctrine all about gaining the advantage before you even fire a shot. And Richthofen, he became Boelcke's star pupil. He didn't just learn these rules, he lived them. His whole method was meticulous. You stalk your prey using the sun and clouds as cover. You always fight from above. And instead of getting into some wild duel, you get in close, really close, for one single lethal burst. And crucially, he knew he wasn't alone up there. It was all about teamwork. And this is what really set him apart from the other so-called daredevils. He wasn't one of them. He was a methodical, disciplined predator. People said he had incredible eyesight and this famously calm demeanor, treating combat like a strategic hunt. And get this, to mark his success, he had a little silver cup engraved for every single plane he shot down. It's a chillingly personal record of his work, isn't it? So, with his hunting method perfected, it was time to build the legend. And this is really where the man and the myth become totally inseparable, all thanks to a can of red paint and the creation of one of the most elite fighting forces in history. Okay, so painting his plane bright red, it was an absolute masterstroke for two reasons. On one hand, it was practical. In the middle of a chaotic dogfight, his men could instantly look up and see their leader. But on the other hand, psychologically, it was terrifying. The sight of that crimson plane became a brand, a symbol of impending doom that German propaganda absolutely loved using to build up their national hero. Now, his most famous ride was the Fokker triplane. But let's be clear, it wasn't some kind of super weapon. It was actually slower than a lot of Allied planes, and had some serious design flaws. Its real strength was its mind-blowing agility and a tight turn. Richthofen mastered it, not because it was perfect, but because he knew exactly how to play to its strengths and avoid its weaknesses. His incredible success earned him command of his own elite unit, Jag de Schwader 1. But everyone knew it by its nickname, the Flying Circus. And why that name? Because this whole force, with all their brightly colored planes, could be packed up and moved rapidly all along the front, showing up wherever they were needed most to completely dominate the skies. It was a totally revolutionary idea. But, of course, no one is invincible. especially not in a grinding war of attrition. The constant pressure, the exhaustion, and a really serious injury, they all started to wear down even the Red Baron, setting the stage for his final fateful flight. Yeah, in mid-1917, he was almost killed. A bullet literally creased his skull. He survived, but he was never the same man again. He started suffering from terrible headaches, nausea, and serious mood swings. Many historians now believe that this head wound really affected his judgment, making him more irritable and, well, maybe more reckless. And that change in judgment, that recklessness, it proved fatal. On April 21st, 1918, he did something the old, methodical Richthofen never, ever would have done. He broke his own cardinal rule. He chased a rookie pilot deep into enemy territory, flying low to the ground, abandoning the very discipline that had kept him alive for so long. And in that single moment of recklessness, he was hit. To this day, there's a huge debate over who actually fired the fatal shot. The Royal Air Force officially gave the credit to their pilot, Captain Roy Brown. But a lot of the evidence, especially the upward angle of the single bullet that killed him, strongly suggests it came from Australian machine gunners on the ground. You see, even in death, the myth is complicated. So why, more than 100 years later, are we still so fascinated by this guy? It's because his legacy is about so much more than just a number in a record book. I think this quote says it all. This was the message written on the wreath from his enemies at his funeral. The Allies, the very men who were trying to shoot him down, buried him with full military honors. That speaks to a level of respect for an adversary that is just almost unimaginable today. His legacy is really a few different things, all wrapped into one. He's part tactical genius, a guy who literally helped write the book on air combat. He's part cultural icon, the blueprint for every fighter ace you've ever seen in a movie. He was also a powerful propaganda symbol for his country. And he's still this crucial case study for historians. So ultimately, his legacy is this fascinating duality. On one side, he's a total inspiration, a symbol of supreme skill, leadership, and courage. But on the other side, his story is a chilling warning about how easily we romanticize war and how the shining image of a hero can be used to hide the brutal, ugly reality of conflict. Which really brings us back to our final question. What was he? A chivalrous hero from an age of knights? A cold-blooded hunter who perfected his deadly craft? Or was he simply the perfect symbol a nation at war desperately needed him to be? The truth, as it almost always is probably somewhere in the middle.